Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be going over another one of the 5E races that I feel doesn't get enough love, the Plasmoids. Now this race originally debuted in Spelljammer, and unfortunately, much like all of the races coming from Wizards of the Coast at the time, we are missing out on a more detailed background information on them, instead getting overall and bland descriptions of how things such as lifespan, height, weight, and languages work, which I think is a huge shame, especially for a race such as the Plasmoids, which is one of the few non-humanoid races we get from official sources in 5e, as they are classified as an ooze. The other two races are actually the Plasmoid Spelljammer mates, the Autognome, which is a construct, and the Thri-kreen, which is a monstrosity. And the fact that we don't have more official information on them is quite disappointing. I understand that Wizards has shied away from having a hard set traits by doing things to make races more generally playable with any class, such as letting you choose your race's ability scores and giving generic descriptions of other things, but it really creates a sense of lacking for some of these newer races, especially the more exotic ones, such as the Plasmoid. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's take a look at the information we do have on Plasmoids. Plasmoids are amorphous beings with no typical shape. In the presence of other folk, they often adopt a similar shape, but there's little chance of mistaking a plasmoid for anything else. They consume foods by osmosis, the way an amoeba does, and excrete waste through tiny pores. They breathe by absorbing oxygen through another set of pores, and their limbs are strong and flexible enough to grasp and manipulate weapons and tools. Although most plasmoids are translucent gray, they can alter their color and translucence by absorbing dyes through their pores. Plasmoids don't have internal organs of any sort. Their bodies are actually composed of cells, fibers, plasma like ooze, and clusters of nerves. These nerves enable a plasmoid to detect light, heat, texture, sound, pain, and vibrations. Plasmoids can stiffen the outer layers of their bodies to maintain a human like shape so that they can wear clothing and other accessories. And they speak by forcing air out of tubular cavities that constrict to produce sound. While plasmoids do sleep, they lose their rigidity and spread out, and are thus sometimes mistaken for rocks or other features of the terrain, maybe even a pile of goo. Next, we're going to get into the plasmoid's traits. You do get to choose whether you are a medium or a small creature, but luckily choosing small will not impact your base 30-foot walking speed. Also, it seems like most races, plasmoids do get dark vision in 5e, despite, of course, the fact they do not have eyes. And while I get that giving a race blind sight right from the jump may be something Wizards wanted to avoid, I am just curious how exactly the plasmoid's eyesight works now, as we are told that they can detect light, but we don't have any other indication that they can see actually anything else. So this is a very curious kind of feature. They also get to hold their breath for an hour, which I am attributing to them being native to the astral plane. And while I am not going to complain about getting this, I do wish it was just full on not needing to breathe, similar to what the Autognome got in the same release. Now on to their more impactful traits, and the reason you'll likely want to play them. First off, they are an ooze, which means they are not a humanoid, and things that target humanoids or impact humanoids will not affect them, such as spells like Hold Person. They're also resistant to two different types of damage, acid and poison damage, and have advantage on saving throws against the poison condition. And next, their two best traits, Amorphous and Shape Self. Shape Self allows you, as an action, to change your general shape, choosing between 1 to 2 legs, 1 to 2 arms, and a head like appendage, or reverting to a limbless blob. And as a bonus action, you can also extrude a pseudopod that is up to 10 feet long, which can't attack, but can be used to interact with objects. And then next, Amorphous, which allows you to squeeze through gaps as narrow as 1 inch, provided you are wearing nothing or carrying nothing. Plus, this trait also gives you advantage to initiate or escape a grapple. Now, obviously, the Shape Self and Amorphous are the highlights of this race. However, the Amorphous feature does come with the drawback that you can't be wearing or carrying anything when you use it. That means no equipment, no backpack, no armor, no weapons, nothing. Which is obviously a huge problem for most characters, and why you'll see most people telling you to use the Monk class with them, to benefit from the Monk's unarmed strikes and unarmored defense. But I would like to propose another option, the Warlock. In particular, the Genie Warlock. The Warlock class actually provides a ton of useful features for this build, including things such as Pact of the Blade, allowing you to summon and dismiss your weapon, Improved Pact Weapon, allowing you to use your Pact Weapon as an arcane focus, and the Armor of Shadows invocation, allowing you to cast Mage Armor on yourself at will. These will all help us get around using the amorphous and not being able to bring our weapon or armor with us when squeezing through cracks. And going with the Genie Warlock gives us a great way to carry all of our unneeded equipment without it getting too bulky, as we can simply store it inside of our nice little genie lamp or vessel and then hand it off to a party member when you're going to slip through something. Now, the official rules state you can only enter your vessel once per long rest, but seeing as the Genie Warlock gets a flying speed at 6th level, they can use proficiency bonus times per long rest. Speaking as a DM, I would have no problem letting a character enter their vessel proficiency bonus times per long rest as well, but I would still have to limit the Sanctuary Vessel feature you get at 10th level to just once per long rest. Another fun thing to consider if you're interested in making your Plasmoid into a infiltrator spy-like character is the Mask of Many Faces, which allows your Plasmoid Warlock to cast Disguise Self at will. Plus, Disguise Self is probably at its most powerful when used by a Plasmoid. Everyone knows the restrictions for the spell state you cannot change your body type with it, and you must have the same arrangement of limbs. Well, what if your character can change their number of limbs? The Plasmoid can use Shape Self to change their number of limbs, or even revert to a limbless blob. This makes the Plasmoid using Disguise Self the ultimate master of disguise, especially because outside of the body type requirement, the spell specifically states the extent of the illusion is up to you. This means a Plasmoid in their limbless blob form can make themselves look like basically any inanimate object, like a rock or a tree stump, and just lay there hiding. And with that, that will actually conclude our video here on Plasmoids, another one of the D&D 5e races that I feel doesn't get enough love. If you haven't seen our previous video on the Grung, definitely go check that out if you're interested. And if you like what we're doing here, consider liking and subscribing. And be sure to check back soon for our next video.